difference with yours, correct me if I'm wrong, is there's no ore purchase agreement in place, whereas that sort of came with the Great Boulder deal, for instance.
There's the potential of that may come into play at a further point in time. But you've got to remember that there's 7 active processing plants within 130 k's of Chalice, right? So down this way, I'd like to keep my options open. If we can get a better margin per ounce for shareholders, why wouldn't you do that and chase that as well, right? So that's probably the other way to look at it, rather than why did Westgold not for an OPA place? It's like, why did Corazon go down this path as well?
This is general advice and my opinions only. This episode's company has paid me for this interview. I may be long, short, or hold an interest in stocks or CFDs mentioned. Past performance isn't reliable. The interviewee's views are their own, not necessarily mine. LEVRD operates as a corporate authorised representative 00131 8377 under AFSL 548573. You can find our financial services guide via the LEVRD website, link in the show notes.
We've got possibly the last, maybe not the last of the Westgold spinouts, you'd say. Chalice. The Chalice mine has gone to Corazon. Ticker CZN. I've got it up on screen here. I've got the MD, Simon Coyle, here to go through the deal that come through last week. Mate, I am surprised. Maybe it's the gold environment, but it didn't really rip. It's sort of stayed where it is. So I've got the graph up here. What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I was a little bit surprised myself, but obviously the raise coming out, and that won't come out until the shareholder meeting, which is looking like we did back end of June. So probably sit around these numbers until then. There's a bit of news flow we'll get out between now and then as well, and see how we go. But I think the whole market's down as well. Like you can't really just point it to us at the present time. It's a bit of a macro environment out there, and there's not many running at this point, but we'll see how we go, eh?
Yeah. Oh, look, because you were, you're sitting at, says you're 10 million market cap now, but pro forma you're going to be sitting at about 33.5 mil, and you've picked up, we'll go through what you've actually picked up, and you've got 190,000 ounces at about, Matt, it'd help if you got the right bloody slide up. 191 at 2.7. So,
that's it.
And mate, I'm an underground guy. You're an open pit guy, and I remember Chalice from back in the day of this was one of the ACM contracts when they were down at Higginsville. So, mate, take us through where this 191,000 ounces sits between pits, underground, existing underground, and everything.
Yeah, so the 191's completely underground, right? And I think that to me, that's where the upside sits. So, it's in complete underground resources. We see, if you go back up one, that there really defines it. It's a good ratio of measured and indicated. I think it's about 2/3 measured, indicated, one third inferred. So there's a high level of confidence in that. You can see there's some unclassified material there sitting at the bottom of the open pit. I think that's where the upside comes. 191,000. At 2.7 is not where it's going to stop by any means. That's from 2014. It was done at when, the US 1,700 per ounce gold price. So, significantly different to what it is today. We're looking at that now and seeing what the upside's going to be. I'd like to put my forward look and get, see what that's going to eventuate. We'll throw a few drill holes in the ground first before we come out with a new MRE in the probably next year at some point in time, but it ain't going to be sitting at 191 for long, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, like this one I got up here, is that existing underground development there, or is that? Yeah,
and that's not even all of it, right? That's just a bit of this is what we've got going on here. It's still like, the portal comes into the pit still. There's a fair bit of exploration drives in there too. Yeah. Which is not included in that. So yeah, there's heaps of underground development done. So a lot of the hard work's done, as you want to. The back's been broken in terms of the capital injection into the underground. So it's underwater, right? So there's going to be an element of rehab that's going to have to occur. It hasn't been mined since September 14. So, yes, there's going to be some capital injection required, but nothing like you'd think about normal underground from a virgin state in that sense anyway.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at here, like your deposits, you got Kronos, Atlas, Grampians, Olympus. And are those resources, are they remnant areas next to previously mined areas? Like it's underwater, like how much, or is there a bit of new development to go to these parts of the resource? Can you explain where it sits in relation to the old workings?
Yeah, so the top three are mainly, as you say, like remnants around old stopes, as well as some out to the north. In that sense, Olympus has got a fair bit of that resource down plunge, which hasn't been touched, and that will need a bit of development, definitely. But if we take our head away, you said you're underground open pit. I've been looking at this as what can we do from an open pit sense to get started initially rather than underground, I'll say this a few times as we're talking, but 2014 is quite a long time ago, right? And the gold price between then and now substantially different. So to say that this is going to be an underground mine only, it's just not the truth in my head. There's potential for that chronicity, which is at surface, close to surface. You now do a pit optimization. Does that come into a cutback? There's a target area we were saying there up at surface to the south, which it's a target area because it's had drilling and there's been, some good high grade mineralization that we can see there. You go back to an open pit here of 500,000 ounces at 5.6 grams. That's fantastic. It's everyone's dream to mine that.
Yeah.
And we can see that some of that's come along strike to the south. I'm not going to tell you now, there's another 500,000 ounces at 5.6 grams to the south in an open pit, but you get 3+ grams in an open pit. It's going to be fantastic to see what we can pull out. So, that's what we're looking at now is, what is that low-hanging fruit? What's the early wins we're going to get on the board, which is that drilling at surface, but also, the down plunge extension's 100% there. There's been drilling outside the resource at depth, which shows that it's continuing. So, we'll throw a few holes in down deep too and see what that looks like.
Yeah, well, even the up plunge with Kronos, that looks like a very arbitrary straight line that's been cut off with.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, that's cut off right at the unclassified material, And then, as I say, there's an up plunge all the way to surface, what it looks like, from what we can see. And it's just never been really followed up. There's been no work done on the ground really since 2014 either, right? So, there is a lot of upside in terms of what I see this is going to be in the not too distant future, that's for sure.
Yeah, too. So before we get into what you're going to be your first cabs off the rank, just go through the raise, the deal. I'm sure you've done it plenty of times this week. What cash you're going to be left with and what you've got to tackle this low-hanging fruit. So obviously Westgold 19.9%. That's where it starts with.
Yeah. So they'll merge at 19.9 on the back end of the deal and the placement going through. There is an $8 million cash upfront payment as well, which will go out the door as soon as that $16.5 million comes into us. So, we're there left with 8.5 of that, 16.5 in our pocket. Plus, we've got some cash and shares as well on hand at the moment. So, we'll end up with that, so 11 to 12 million in cash and shares, which we'll then go and be able to put into the ground pretty quickly. There is another couple of milestone payments. There's 4 million in 12 months, and then you got obviously the 3.5 million payments of the different resource upgrades. When they come about is when we do the resource upgrade, and we'll see what happens as well over that period of time. But, I don't see us dropping 11 million out to Westgold straight away, but there will be some payments coming out in the next 12 months for sure.
Yeah, so because what do you think the market, they're going to sort of wait and see what happens a bit, because one, I guess, why couldn't you raise more? You're raising a lot for the size of your company already, and do you think they're thinking, well, with those milestone payments coming up, there's obviously there's always going to be another raise for something, but there might need to be a raise for that. Has that been the feedback at all, or?
Yeah, it hasn't really been a massive amount of feedback in that sense, to be honest with you. We need to get it work on ground and show what's going on at Chalice as well. 100%, we're going to raise again at a point in time. It's what happens in the junior mining space, what we do, right? But we need to get the runs on the board. Ideally, we push this share price up a fair bit between now and then, and show what we can do. Chalice will give pretty quickly. But you got to remember, we've also got Feathercap and Two Pools going on up north too, right? So, there's a couple of other really good projects up there, which will give us a bit of upside, I would have thought, in the not too distant future too. So, it's all in front of us.
Yeah, we'll get onto them. They're some good grades up there. We'll probably close this one off with because I guess everyone's comparing any Westgold spin out. They're comparing to New Murchison, Great Boulder, Valiant. And everything.
Sure.
And I guess probably the key difference with yours, correct me if I'm wrong, is there's no ore purchase agreement in place, whereas that sort of came with the Great Boulder deal, for instance. Any comment on to why that is? Obviously, Higginsville's bloody 20 k's away. It's where it's at.
100%. It's right there. Look, we've had early conversations with Scott on that. There's already that's occurred. There's the potential of that may come into play at a further point in time. But you got to remember, there's 7 active processing plants within 130 k's of Chalice, right? You haven't got that up north, right? So you're Peak Hill, there's not that much optionality. You know, you've got probably 4 of them around there. 2 of them are owned by Westgold. So down this way, you know, I'd like to keep my options open. If we can get a better margin per ounce for shareholders, why wouldn't you do that and chase that as well, right? So that's probably the other way to look at it, rather than, you know, why did Westgold not put an OPA place? It's like, why did Corazon go down this path as well? And that's more to the point in terms of, you know, what is it the best option for us to move forward? And, you know, it may be Higginsville, but don't get me wrong, but it may also be something else in the region as well. So
could be bloody Norseman. Like, plenty.
Could be. It could be. Like, there's a lot of them at the moment that are utilising third-party ores, and you know, if you look around, some of the grade coming into those are pretty low as well, which, you know, I'm pretty confident our grade's going to be fairly reasonable, and we've got a bit of time to sort that out over the next 6 months is what they'll be looking at doing, and then we'll move that forward from there. But yeah, I'm not worried about it, so I don't think it's a deal breaker or something that anything should be hang up on, that's for sure.
I like that mentality, mate. It's like, listen here, I'm letting Westgold know what's going on. It's not the other way around.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yes and no. It'd be a nice way to put it, but anyway, no, it's just more that optionality, right? And if we can get a better margin per ounce, why wouldn't you chase it? That's what I'm after.
Yeah. So, and I get, okay, what, that, I guess, pit cut back and drilling that target area at Kronos, is that would you say at the moment probably easiest win for early ore, or is there other potential options for you for an open pit? Open pit's going to be the quickest because you don't have to pump anything out yet.
Yeah, sure. Oh, I mean, that 100%. That's what I call the low-hanging fruit, right? And any of these projects you look at and you go, how do I turn this into a, you know, economic value ASAP? You know, it's like, it's on a mining lease. Permitting is going to take bugger all. You know, native title's in place, so all the hard work's done for you, right? It's now about how do we turn this around and start making economical ounces out of the ground. And you know, and to the south there, it's a no-brainer. Looking at the drilling that's already occurred, it's there. You know, we've run some high-level numbers on that. It looks pretty profitable. And you know, we'll look at putting that into production in, you know, the next 12 to 18 months, for sure. And then what that does, you know, it brings non-dilutive cash into the company. It then gives us the ability to go and push the underground down deeper. So just on that underground, right, in 2020, there was a study done on the underground, which came out with a 55,000 ounce reserve, right? That reserve was done at $1,400 US per gold price, right? And all normal costs and so forth. We haven't been able to release that because we haven't currently got a processing solution in place. So we didn't put that into the investment or into the announcements, but 55,000 ounce reserve in the underground at $1,400 US per ounce. You rerun that today, the reserve, it's definitely not 55,000 in the underground, right? So all these numbers are, you know, that's what we're going to be looking at doing. And then you also do the open pit cutback, and what does that look like? So there's a lot of upside. You know, it's not 191,000 resource. That's what the biggest thing about, you know, that's why there's a lot of these Westgold spinouts. They're not the number that you buy them for. They're the number you see what the future's going to bring them. So
yeah,
that's what I'm looking at here.
Because the underground looks pretty. Look at some of these hits. It looks pretty bulky. Like, I don't know what maybe explain the true width on some of them. Like, you know, for example, Olympus, 22 metres at 3 grams. But Atlas is like 10 at 3, 23 at 1.2. So is it what's the sort of the mineralisation style?
About 25 metres, dipping at about 30 degrees. So it's, you know, and again, I'm not going to get into the technicality of an underground mine, mate. That's your wheelhouse, not mine. But everything's done on long hole open stoping. You know, like I said, the studies that have been done make it look really, really achievable. A lot of the drives are in place, which are all standard size. There's nothing here that you look at going, oh, how are we going to actually turn this on, right? So it's all pretty straightforward mining. You know, dilution's been taken into account for all the studies that have occurred. So, yeah, it's going to be fantastic to see this back into production, is all I can say.
Well, mate, you got, if you're mining stopes that wide, dilution is such less of a problem because your skin is so small compared to the width of the stope. Like, because is the gold, is it like explain the mineralisation. Is it like a sedimentary, like how it's distributed over a wide area, or is it heaps of quartz veins, or?
Yeah, so it's quartz veins hosted, as a lot of these systems are in that region. It's very much associated with the granite and the ultramafic contact on that western side there, which is creating that plunge. There's some nice good sheets across there, which are very easily mineable. And there's obviously a few stacked of those quartz veins coming through as well, which is giving us that true width in terms of what's going on. So it's it's minor. And so the dilution, I think, there's been a 1.5 meter skin put around it of dilution, which makes it again very achievable. It's an ore body that's open to jump into pretty quickly. There's no major red flags, right? In any of these sort of DD processes you go through, you're looking for the red flags from a geotechnical, from a geological point of view, then into the mining point of view, and nothing's come up. Permitting's all fine, so it looks fantastic.
What is there any sort of any permits you got to get in place to start pumping the water to discharge it, or is it going to be kept internally, or what's the plan there?
So the water was part of the agreement. We put a water access agreement in place with Westgold, so that they utilize that water for Higginsville processing.
Yep.
And so which is, as we all know, water is the lifeline of the processing hub, right? So without water, you've got nothing going on. And so there's an agreement there in place, which is very straightforward, extremely practical, which I was pretty stoked about to see, because sometimes if being the little person in the room, you may get pushed around a bit. But Westgold, it was great. It looks really easy to actually put in fruition. So we've got a 6-month sort of lead time there, where we'll say to Westgold, we're going to start mining, and they'll then look at dewatering the pit into other areas they've got, or build a turkey's nest. And if within that, there's a couple of clauses there, which the cost will fall onto Corazon, but nothing that's unachievable at all. And then the access rights on the water stay with Westgold, because obviously, as I say, everyone wants water in this this area. If you got your hands on it, you might as well keep it. So, we've still got the right to utilise it for a mining sense. All we're going to look at doing is for dust suppression, really, more than anything. So
like to send it to Higginsville, you just have to establish the piping to get it.
So it's all there. So
it's
currently.
Yeah.
This is pretty much a turkey's nest that Westgold are using now, right? So they're pumping into it from their bore fields. Obviously, let it settle, then they'll pump out of that to Higginsville. All the infrastructure is currently in place. It's currently been utilised. Yeah, so that's what I mean. So it's when I first looked at it and thought of it, I was like, wow, this could be a bit of a showstopper, but 100% it ain't. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, right. Mate, your other assets, that now that they're not getting the attention this week. This one's taken the bloody fame off them. 2 pools up near Plutonic, so northern Murchison, let's call it. Are they sort of Chalice becoming the flagship? How much attention are these assets going to be getting?
So Chalice will come forward in front of these two now for sure. Only for the fact that we can push that into production a lot quicker than 2 pools and feather cap. 2 pools, it's a great system. It hasn't had any attention since 2018. Look at those results there. I looked at those sort of 4 headliners when we first looked at the project back in August last year, and was like, this looks significantly good. You don't see 12 metres at 9 grams very often around the place. And again, virgin ground, no mining previously ever occurred. So, that's a lot of upside in that sense. We've recently done a diamond program up there, because there was never any diamond done previously. It was all RC, majority of RAB actually, previous to that. So we put some diamond holes in just to give ourselves the structural understanding of what's going on with the quartz veins up there. And we thought they were actually dipping in a northwest direction, but now, which is the fertile, and there's some cross-cutting east-west quartz veins, which we've seen now. It's where the gold is hosted in those ones. So we're going to go up there in late June and put about 2,500 metres in the ground of RC now, which should be pretty confident with now that we've got that understanding through the core. And that's only in that little red square, right? So there's one little area there that's the only area we've been touched on, and there's a big 4 kilometre long soil anomaly across that span. And again, if you look at that whole area, it's about 4 k's by 2 k's, right? And we've got 537 square k's up there that we've picked up over the last sort of 9 months. And majority of that's untouched. And, a few of those tenements are still in application, but some have also been granted as well. So there's going to be drilling here. There's also going to be a lot of greenfield soils and so forth, and just trying to get some further targets happening. And what it is up there, it's all been mapped as granite historically. It's, there's a greenstone underneath the granite overthrust, and we're really, pretty excited about what the upside's going to be around this region. that on this map here, like 2 pools north. So the 2 tenements to the east, if you want to call it, were the first 2 we pulled in with the acquisition back in August, and then we put the other 2 in for our own pegging and applications, just through some geophysics bringing to it. And then to the south there, we did a deal with IGO a few months ago there on those 2 pools south tenements. So, they had some old data from De Beers back in the day that showed that there was some gold grains and some sediments and so forth across there, which they then went and put a peg that ground, and through conversations we ended up picking that up off them as well. And so we're in a pretty good position up there, I think. Yes, it's a while away from a resource, but it's not far away by any means. And there's already ounces sitting in the 2 pools in the open pit, which we modelled up. So it's going to be good to go. The drill bit will tell the story from here on in. It didn't give us the high grade results in terms of the assaying in that recent program we did, but it did give us the core and the information structure. And the reason why was we actually drilled, on that northwest structure rather than the east-west structure. So we actually had the drill bit going in the wrong direction. But, you learn your lessons and you move forward from that, and we're pretty excited about where that's going to go in the future.
Yeah, so because it looks like Catalyst are they're big enough, busy enough on their own ground at the moment. It's obviously the logical place that it'll end up similar to like a Strickland Northern Star relationship with their assets. I gather that's sort of the goal, to keep it ticking along for a divestment at some point.
Yeah, 100% divestment or a toll treat, right? So if you have a look at all our assets we're picking up unloved assets that are in tolling distance to operating mills. That's the Corazon strategy of what we're doing at the moment, right? So we started with 2 pools. We knew that was within 60 k's of Catalyst Plutonic mill. We expanded that ground quite significantly. Feather Cap on the other side, that's 40 k's to Fortnum, and then about 100 or so k's down East Bluebird down the road. And then Chalice now, right? That's 22 k's to Higginsville. So every project is strategically positioned for that reason, right? So, and we won't stop there either. We'll keep going. So what else we can pick up? But yeah, look, Feather Cap, like that's a ripping project again that we haven't been able to get on ground there because we're still waiting for TOs and surveys. So we only did the deal there in October. We get a 12-month option agreement over that. So we'll spend 250 to 300,000 in the ground on that in this 12-month period just to really see what's going on. But again, you've got 7 meters at 6 grams from 6 meters, right? It's pretty good oxide dirt. You get that out, I'm fairly certain we'll be able to toll treat that at any of the mills in the region. And again, now having Westgold, as a major shareholder, that the potential there opens up Fortnum for us, right? Or Bluebird or one of the other ones in that region. So it's more than just Chalice and Higginsville. Having Westgold in behind us, it's potential for these other areas too to lean on them in that sense.
Is two pools is probably how far is 2 pools from Fortnum?
It's about 150. So it's the grade. If the grade holds up, you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
But ideally, Catalyst would be the point of call for that one. If they want it.
So assuming Chalice is obviously the lowest hanging fruit to get money into the business. Any Metallurgy, like based on what they've produced historically, it looks pretty tickety-boo, but any sort of red flags with the Metallurgy, or it's pretty simple based on what you're saying?
No, I've only looked at all the technical data and the studies that we've got from historic in the data room, and I touched on that 55,000 ounce reserve previously, and within that there's a 94.5% metallurgical recovery. So that's pretty good in my head. So yeah, I don't see any issues with that at all. If we can go back up to the surface and get some of that free milling and the oxide even better, get that out quicker as well. But overall, zero issues with the Metallurgy from everything we've seen to date, that's for sure. If that changes down plunge, we'll deal with that as it comes, but we don't foresee that being an issue.
Yeah. Did that raise, did you bring any many new instos and stuff onto the register, or was the existing supported it, or what's the register look like now?
Yeah, we bought quite a few new instos in. They all sort of stayed under the 4.9%. Some existing shareholders came in as well. The top 2 didn't recontribute, which is fine. From there on in it was new, existing, and a lot of high net worths came in too. But 4 or 5 different instos at just under that 4 to 4.9%, just staying sort of insignificant for now, just to see how we go, and they'll back it in. But also there was a few that we're keen to get in, but we're just not quite at the size yet. But we'll be there in the next 6+ months at scale, and that will change again, hopefully.
So is that top one, Conbrio, yada, 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 that's Delphi, is it?
Correct, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, so
and they're historically in there from the nickel days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Delphi and Blackstone are both in there for Lynn Lake, the Canadian asset we've still got within the company. So, that's a hangover from those days. And, Scotty's on the board still, which from the Blackstone days as well. So, we've still got good flow through from them. Well, you can see that's Scotty Weir, but yeah, it's a pretty good register for now from what it was. And you see like the two pools guys like Pete and Rob are up there as well. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
good register.
Yeah, no, nice. Well, it's the best thing that's going to help you. Gold 5,000.
Updated that register. I'm looking at it going, that's not what the numbers look like anyway.
Yeah, I think
they're a bit old, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's either from annual report or changes in substantial. So I think it's not automatic, unfortunately. The best thing for your share price would be gold back to $5,000 an ounce. That's what everyone bloody needs at the moment.
It's trickled a bit today. It's gone a little bit today, right? So
yeah, we're getting
it's heading in the right direction again. But yeah, get back to 5,000. She's game on for everyone, right?
Yeah, no, very much so, mate. That's been a good overview. Missed anything you wanted to get out there?
I don't think so. I think the upside's going to be fantastic at Chalice. We're only just getting started, as I've said in a few of my posts within Corazon. I said I don't think so. I'm about to give you a spiel about but mate, 9 months for our fourth acquisition in 9 months within Corazon. We raised just under $20 million or just over in that period of time. Got good backing behind us. We're going to keep pushing this company forward. So we're undervalued as we sit. I see that massively. Share price won't be sitting where it is for very long. So all I can say is, to your investors and your listeners out there, don't miss this one because we're going to keep going and keep pushing. But yeah, watch this ride.
Very good, mate. When's Trench 2 settle? When's your meeting?
Be back end of June. We're just getting all the nom and that done at the moment. So that's with ASX. So we hope to get that out Friday this week, if not earlier.
Yeah.
And then it's like the 29th of June or something from there, what it looks like.
Sweet as, mate. No, awesome, mate. Well done on the deal. That's bloody exciting and looking forward to following it, mate. I've got too many outcomes I need to try and get sorted before I start punting on screen again. But if I do, I'll have you back on just so I can buy it in front of you. So
good man.
Good on you, mate. Cheers, Coyle. Best of luck with it, mate.
Thanks soon. See ya.
And as always, punters, thanks to the Dosh sponsor, the Toad, the Cane Toad. Link in the show notes to the 3D drill hole visualising software that will change your life. Thank you very much.